It's important in business to pace yourself well or risk a poor finish. An obstacle isn't a reason to quit. We ask Oleg Boyko, a famous investor, how to climb the Olympus of business and be a winner. Hello.
Hello.
Coming up,
How many times?
who is Oleg Boyko?
A business romantic.
What is he involved in these days?
Financial services in the digital space.
What lessons has he learned?
The meaning of a businessman's life is to recover after defeat.
Why are the Vulcan gambling clubs successful?
Vulcan was established as a real international corporation.
Why sponsor the Paralympic movement?
It's close to my heart, something I can relate to.
He told us about this and much more over lunch. So when you come here, torches light up?
Yes, everyone hides.
Enthusiastic and purposeful, he was successful in many fields as a child, in the sciences while in school, and in the martial arts, where he speedily obtained a black belt in karate. He began his business career early as well, in school, where he started a karate club and trained his fellow students. Do you remember the first thing you spent money on as a schoolboy?
Well, it was only a little money. I bought an expensive Japanese karate gi for training.
And when did you wake up and finally realize that, yeah, I'm rich?
I guess it was when I was about 30. It didn't happen suddenly. My wealth grew gradually.
When the Soviet-planned economy fell apart, Boyko went into business. He started a co-op which sold US-made computing tools. He also imported fruit. But his true success came when he opened his Olby Diplomat foreign currency shops.
It's the largest supermarket chain in Russia.
His ads ran constantly, and by the mid-1990s, Oleg Boyko was one of the most influential businessmen in Russia. They called you a financial punk. Why a punk? And what does that mean?
We were inventing many avant-garde processes in finance and in our other businesses. We introduced a lot of new and dynamic things, you could say. What is a financial punk? It's a man who rejects all the traditions, isn't it? It's someone who moves forward in a different way, not like the others. Isn't that right?
And Boyko moved in a different direction indeed. In the early 90s, you were one of the richest men in Russia, even called an oligarch. But then your life started to look more like a novel, with highs, lows, highs again. Tell me, how did you manage?
It's my attitude. I just have it, I think. The main features of an entrepreneur, trader, businessman is the ability to take risks and recover from defeats.
His first setback was in 1995. Boyko was having problems with National Credit Bank, which collapsed soon after he was forced to sell it. A year later, a fall damaged Boyko's spinal cord. He spent a long time recovering abroad. Then, in '98, the crisis hit, knocking the value of almost all of his assets down to virtually zero. What were the risks in the banking field that made you decide to leave it?
Any bank is about risk, because any loan you grant is a risk. Yes, I left after the crisis of 1995. The situation in banking was difficult at that time. At that time, I decided that it was better to sell. Basically, this is the way I left it. I sold it. 12 months later, the National Sports Fund, which had purchased it, had problems with the management and founders, and they couldn't maintain the business during the crisis.
What do you think the reasons were? Why couldn't they keep it above water?
They bought it because it was prestigious. The bank was working with the finance ministry. They were rather government-oriented, and they liked that a lot. Not being bankers and being in such a difficult banking situation, They just couldn't maintain it.
Well, then, why did you get involved in banking in the 90s? If you say it was so risky.
Well, what could be more prestigious than having a bank in the 1990s? It's hard to imagine. So I guess it's the feeling when you sit in your office, you're wearing a necktie,
And I'm a
and
banker.
you're managing things. For a young businessman, nothing could be more, well, rather cool, yes, prestigious and interesting.
So you envied yourself.
Sometimes that was a fascinating time. I think that it was really unique because the scale and also the speed of the transformation and of the accumulation and the growth of new businesses, well, that was definitely unique. At the same time, obviously the whole environment was still very young and consisted of unusual systemic risks. Besides, we were all inexperienced. So it was rather like sailing in rough seas.
But you liked it, surely?
Sure thing. It was interesting, a challenge. I like that.
So you like challenges?
Well, of course I do. Any person who goes into this business must enjoy challenges. He must also prove that he is able to do something and deserve something. It's the main reason people manage businesses. It's all about self-fulfillment.
You were the issuers of the first Russian bank card?
We issued the first debit card. It was called the Olby card, and it was issued for shop customers. At first it was wholesale. Then retail sales emerged. Later still, a bank card appeared. And then the bank.
The bank was pioneering in many aspects. These days, many Russian entrepreneurs participate in the annual Davos Forum. But in 1992, a Russian businessman visiting Switzerland was pure exotica. The way Russians behaved was a bit strange for them. You visited Davos in the early 90s. And they named you one of the top 100 most promising businessmen of that time. I've heard legends of you leaving delegates with mouths agape at your Russian merchant parties with bears and gypsies. Is that true?
Yes, it's true. The times were like that. Nothing surprising about it. But it was fun. There was this enthusiasm. It seemed that there was no limit to our growth and our future. Everything was flying up like a rocket. We had fun, and we worked like that. Sure thing, that was something that's rarely seen today. Everybody became respectable and serious. We were younger then, and more creative.
And when did that rocket start slowing down?
The first crises, I think in 95 and 98, we realized there are not only ups, but of course downs too. That was the time when all of us started learning lessons. Since then, business has become more serious.
What was the biggest hit you took in the 90s?
When I sold Olby shops and the bank, it was painful. It was difficult to recover after that and to rebuild.
In the 90s, companies that were once on top started to go bankrupt. Boyko purchased the debts of several iron and steel works and, with Alexander Abramov, established a huge steelmaking enterprise, Yevraz. For the next 5 years, he was not only the co-owner but also chairman of the board of Yevraz Holding. In 2004, he sold his share, earning an estimated $600 million. Then the pain subsided and you delved into Yevraz.
Yevraz was a large project, and it was incredible because it was assembled from various parts. After the 1998 crisis, all factories were in a difficult situation. The establishment of Yevraz was definitely a complicated task. I was involved in establishment of the financial system. I'm not an industrialist. I wanted to do something more active. I was never involved in management activities there. It all came down to the corporate issues of the establishment of a corporate management system in general and a financial service. When that task was completed, my role there was reduced, and I left.
You also had some Sberbank shares.
Yes, I had quite a lot of them.
But you could have had more. There's a story that if you hadn't overslept and missed a meeting with Chernomyrdin, you could have been the owner now. Is that true?
Not true. I didn't miss the meeting with Chernomyrdin. They just used to catch me somewhere in the evening. There was a period in the history of our country when the budget was passed not for 5 or 3 years, but sometimes on a quarterly basis. And the voting in the Duma and all related political and some administrative actions. Since I was involved in all that for some time, well, I guess these rumors about Chernomyrdin come from there. Actually, I wanted to participate more actively in Sberbank's life. During privatization, I was never interested in any industrial assets. To my colleagues' surprise, when they tried to coordinate who would participate in which privatizations, I said that I wouldn't participate in any. I'm just not an industrialist. I'm far more interested in finance. Therefore, Sberbank, that was the most interesting project for me.
Would you be interested in privatization now?
No, because I've established all my businesses, not acquired through privatization. I don't have such businesses. Mine are market-based. I am not attracted to non-commercial businesses related to the state.
And you can tell it from his private office. His bookshelves are mildly unkempt, and you can find some unusual toys on the others.
It's called the corporate armored train. Business management in front, yes. These are people topside. And those ones in the back, they're really serious. I guess you could call it the board. The shareholders are in the jacuzzi.
You, in other words.
Well, yeah, us.
And where does this armored train take you?
Forward, only forward. To the stars.
Are you a dreamer?
Of course I am. Without global tasks, you'll get nowhere on that train.
And what are your dreams these days?
I dream of creating a project where super talented people can be discovered early, then learn via a well-organized system, and from there, work on large-scale projects all over the world. That's my dream.
Like serious?
Yes, like that. There is also a presidential program in Russia. But I have some ideas on that topic. I think we'll create an international program with talented Russians involved.
You collect glass figurines?
Yes.
That's strange. Not coins or weapons like most businessmen. Why figurines?
Glass figurines are beautiful and aesthetic. I like bright colors like that. Positive things. Therefore, I guess it subconsciously triggers some vivid positive emotions.
In the early 2000s, Boyko placed his stake on Russia's gambling business. He bought a share of Vulcan, a chain of Moscow gambling venues, and established Rizio Entertainment Group. It became the largest Russian slot machine operator. In 2009, however, the law changed, and gambling was prohibited almost everywhere. So, Boyko left the market, although Rizio continues abroad. So, what explains the success of the Vulcan gambling clubs? Or, as I've heard that you've called them, family entertainment centers.
Since buying and growing small companies is our speciality, Vulcan was nothing new. First, we bought a share and then developed it. It's our standard business. This is what is called direct investment, when a company is bought and then developed up to a far greater level. That was the case with Vulcan. We developed Vulcan as an international corporation, using the best management practices. Actually, it was ready for a public offering. A mandate for an IPO was signed with Credit Suisse. It had to be a large, multi-billion IPO. So Vulcan was successful because it was operated correctly. We even redesigned the Vulcan logo at one point.
But the sign was magnificent.
We did everything according to the rules of aesthetic quality.
In addition to Vulcan, you were also an owner of the Metellica Casino Club, correct?
Yes, I was an investor back then. At that time, the club was the place where people from all over the country gathered. Naturally, everything risky is similar. It's still a game. A game of characters, a game of ambitions, a game of emotions. A game is a very succinct term. Life's a game.
And we're the players, the actors.
Of course. Some of us are both actors and directors.
And who are you in life? An actor or director?
Then I'm a director and producer.
And who plays the role of you?
Terminology, yes. Sometimes I'm like Tarantino. He sometimes acts in his own films. I'm like that. I think of things. I organize. And basically, I participate. There's one business, for example, in which I'm directly involved.
The cinema analogy is not irrelevant. 3 years ago, Boyko entered the film industry and started in Hollywood right at the top. He produced Sin City 2 with Bruce Willis, Jessica Alba, and Mickey Rourke. The movie did lose money. It cost $65 million, but earned only $40.
I was involved in the business processes and also in financing issues. I wasn't the director.
So you plan to continue that? Or it didn't take off?
Well, it was fascinating. It's a path to creative self-fulfillment, an intense and exciting pursuit. However, to manage that kind of business, you have to live in Hollywood, and we're in Russia.
Well, maybe you could shoot films in Russia? Do you ever think of that?
My friend Fyodor can do better than me. And I don't like...
Oh, I don't think you'd refuse a producer like you.
Well, of course, it's possible. I think we could definitely cooperate. Still, our priority is business these days, because we have such an exciting and interesting new business that is basically no less creative than cinema.
You still have your gambling business abroad, don't you?
Some vestiges remain, which I'm sure we will sell soon, because what's left is small. And there are no plans for further serious development, because basically...
And when will you sell it?
We are continuously negotiating. We'll do that soon.
How much are you asking?
A few million, no more. It's much better than Vulcan. However, the color scale is similar.
Boyko bought an unknown perfume company in 2007. In 5 years, he turned it into a large chain. He sold his stake for $140 million in 2012.
This is the world of beauty, finally.
So why did you decide to get into this world of beauty?
Well, it's just an old affection for...
Women.
to retail. We started with Olby. The colors are similar. Blue is my favorite.
Are you nostalgic?
Yes, but we got there because it's our business to buy companies and develop them. For example, we made Rive Gauche 3 times bigger.
So you developed it and then you sold part.
Yes. Another rule is sell on time.
Well, why didn't you sell everything then?
It's our strategy. When you sell part, you get your investment and profit, and there's something left that remains and grows. A combination of risks.
So how do you decide when it's time to quit, to get out?
Once we see the company's growth is at less than 20% a year, we become less interested. At that point, we sell it and find a company with greater growth prospects.
But with Yevraz, you hit on something. Its capitalization grew.
Yes, there were very serious risks. The main thing is to quit when the company goes up. It's also a very important rule of investment. If you quit early and earn some money, that's good. If you quit when it goes down, it's much worse. Therefore, it's better to always quit earlier than later.
Welcome to our perfumery.
What are these?
What do you like? What scent
Limited
do you
editions? Where's a beautiful word? Can I try one?
wear? Well, this aroma is a la whiskey.
Whiskey?
Yes, and it's perfume.
That's promising. Let me try.
Can I put some on you?
I'll try here, okay? Puff it once or
Once
twice.
is more than enough. It is perfume. Wonderful.
It's strong. Thanks. I'll take it.
Boyko has also invested in the newspapers Izvestia and Ogonyok, was a member of the board of ORT, and was a founder of NTV. He co-financed the company with entrepreneurs Gusinski and Smolensky. How much money was invested, he doesn't say, but he has since quit television. So, do you want to have your own TV channel at this point?
That's a real full-time job. Everyone wants to be influential and have some media to report their personal views. It was a small gentleman's group. We definitely won't get involved in informational TV.
Do you watch TV yourself?
Of course. Primarily news programs and science too. And lately CNN, of course.
What's the difference between business in Russia now and in the 1990s?
Society is more modern. Secondly, digital and new businesses have emerged. First, there was commerce, then banking and privatization. Now, my favorite, digital, has developed.
What about business conditions and government policies, regulations?
The participants in the race have different interests. Therefore, it's really no use complaining. You have to adapt to all conditions.
Oleg Boyko is currently the 58th richest person in Russia. His assets are valued at $1.2 billion. His Finstar holding has projects in various sectors, from financial, high-tech, and commercial real estate to cosmetics, perfume, and entertainment. It reaches from Eastern Europe to Asia and Latin America and is worth more than $2 billion. So, which of these businesses of yours is the most profitable?
Securities trading. Our focus is still the financial business and financial services in the so-called digital space. Mobile devices and the internet. So, building financial and banking services in this new era without physical branches, namely online and in mobile apps.
Do you mean primarily microfinancing?
The term is much broader. Everybody knows about microfinancing. It's the most known part of this business. In fact, First of all, we're speaking about groups in society that don't get proper services from traditional banking and financial organizations. It could be small and medium-sized businesses. It could also be a factoring transaction for large corporations. Everything related to digital financial business.
Boyko's family owns 49% of Latvian financial company For Finance, the largest such company in Europe, operating in 16 countries. Finstar invested 15 million euros in the Finnish Euroloan Group and in 2015 launched its own project, Digital Finance International, which specializes in innovative financial technologies. In protecting consumers, regulators can often make the work of such organizations harder, particularly in Europe. Has this been an obstacle for you?
On the contrary, we initiate the most progressive form of regulation very frequently. Regulation helps us get rid of unfair participants in the market and increases the confidence of financial markets, investors, society, and also customers. We are actually all for it.
You're one of only a few people who was able to create a successful Russian business abroad. Tell me, how'd you do it?
We've been operating abroad since 1988. We were always international. Now we're building this system when we create a high-tech business. So we have to find the brightest talents, and they're scattered all over the world. On the other hand, many jurisdictions are regulated in a more complex, up-to-date way. We train there as well, implement projects and new technologies, and then adapt it all here.
Last year, Boyko invested more than 31 million euros into the German company Spotcap, which provides credit to small and medium-sized businesses.
Germany is important, a huge market. We are, strangely enough, rather advanced there with our small company.
Do you work in the Ukrainian market?
We work in Ukraine too. We've had an office there over 20 years. We have an experimental small polygon there. It's somehow profitable. Financial services as well. We are very careful there.
Well, yes, because they could ban Sberbank.
Because we have a large office there, we didn't close.
Do you have a presence in the Latin American market as well?
We are currently present in 26 countries, including in Latin America, naturally, and even in the US. Since our business is digital, it's very easily transferable to various countries. I think we'll work in more than 50 countries before long. In Russia as well, of course. We have our main office here. What we are trying to create is a system that, through the processing of huge amounts of data, enables us to grant loans to people and also render financial services to them and sell goods.
So can you tell me what's your most valuable asset today?
The securities portfolio. We invest money in industries we know. Technological companies, financial companies. We had some historical portfolios of some industrial companies.
You were a pioneer in so many businesses. What are your current ideas?
Our platform allows financial institutions and financial companies in the digital sphere to provide these financial services in the most efficient way. We are creating new generation financial intermediaries, which will, to a large extent, substitute today's banking institutions.
Boyko has an electronic assistant with him all the time, day and night. It even has a name. Is it true that you always have a dictaphone with you so that you can record your thoughts?
I even sleep with it. I wake up sometimes, and it even has a nickname, Whisperer. Because secretaries type it out and give me printouts of my night ideas, my secret technology, Whisperer.
Oleg Viktorovich's schedule always includes sports.
I play sports every day.
Do you know Oleg Boyko?
He's known to all the former Soviet Union and elsewhere. He's a legend. I'm proud to know him. We're all from there. Look at my T-shirt. It says Katusha. This is the song that helped our country win the Great Patriotic War. Why? The valor of Oleg and the like. I'm proud that he's among us.
Yes, we're proud too. Boyko heads the Russian Commission for the Paralympic movement. In 2005, he founded the Parasport Fund, whose objective is to support not only athletes, but everyone who has such limitations.
I got into the movement for two reasons. One is obviously because I have a Paralympic situation myself, and the other is I used to love sports, and this business is close to me. Truly, and strangely enough, at school I thought I would be a professional athlete, and I never thought about another career. Therefore, it's very close, and I can relate to it.
So, what do you think? What are the chances for the Russian athletes to ever return to the Paralympic Games?
We made a serious effort to help them return. Unfortunately, this is a political issue. But politics is made by people, and we're trying to help. Paralympic sports are very pure and unobjectionable, sacred even, I think I could say, without exaggeration. And I think we'll win, eventually.
We know that the Rio Games ban was clearly a political move. But did the athletes from the other countries give any support to our athletes?
Yes, of course. Many supported them, and wrote to and spoke to, and weren't afraid to petition their political leaders. They are conscientious people. It was absolutely inhuman behavior from certain international civil servants. I can't think of other words to describe it.
You once said that you don't know how to be sad. Can you teach me that?
Of course I'll teach you. It's like this. The main achievement in human life is not a particular achievement or victory. It's when your life and all its processes are organized in such a way that the number of emotions you need always basically matches your psychological and your emotional needs.
Back in the 1990s, you were involved in politics. Have you thought these days of returning to politics, of somehow participating?
No, business and politics don't go together.
Boyko has long been searching for technologies to improve the lives of disabled people. In the early 2000s, he met the German engineer Stefan Liepert. Liepert invented a three-wheeled scooter for people with mobility problems. Boyko invested in the project and established the Switch Mobility Engineering Company in Stuttgart. It has a number of options in its portfolio. Boyko himself prefers the electric scooter. With your health issues, have you ever thought of maybe investing in medicine or establishing your own clinic, let's say?
Definitely. It's in process. Projects for increasing the longevity of disabled people.
A cure for death.
It's not that simple. There is no such drug. It is many measures, interventions, and medicines. There are at least 20 theories of aging. Therefore, it's a complex, interesting task.
So, approximately how much have you invested?
The investments are minimal so far, because the first thing we have done is invest in 2 programs. We create databases that analyze and systemize all knowledge and all modern discoveries in this field, because their numbers are growing day by day. And we also have 2 metabolism projects, as well as treatment and weight optimization projects.
Your life is just like an adventure novel. Have you ever thought of writing memoirs, maybe? What might you start with?
I'd start with childhood. So many adventures, especially in the 1990s. And many players are still around. And so therefore, I think that it would be difficult to describe all that in detail. I'd rather write another book. Maybe a general theory of happiness. How to teach people to be happy. It's too early for memoirs. That's for later in life.